Ready, kids? 3, 2, 1.
I love Bosco, it's rich and chocolatey. Chocolate fairy Bosco, it's mighty good for me. Mama puts it in my milk for extra energy. Bosco gives me iron and sunshine vitamin D. Oh, I love Bosco, that's the drink for me.
One of nature's most perfect foods is milk, and you can make milk even more perfect for your children by adding Bosco Milk Amplifier. This nutritious chocolate-flavored syrup adds iron and vitamin D, increasing the food value of and digestibility of milk. Bosco and milk build healthier bones, stronger muscles, and better teeth. It's so easy to use. Just add a tablespoon of chocolatey Bosco for every glass, and it makes children's drink lovable. That's why children sing,
I love Bosco, it's rich and chocolatey. Chocolate fairy Bosco, it's mighty good for me. Mama puts it in my mouth for extra energy. Bosco gives me iron and such a vitamin D. Oh, I love Bosco, that's a drink for me.
Good going.
A doodly-dot, Pepsi Cola hits the spot. 12 full ounces, that's a lot. Twice as much for a nickel, too. Pepsi Cola is a drink for you. Nickel, 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 trickle, 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 nickel, 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 trick.
Whether it's in a chilled bottle or at the soda fountain counter at your favorite drugstore, drink a cool, refreshing Pepsi Cola today. The nickel drink for everyone.
A doodly-dot-dot, a doodly-dot, Pepsi Cola hits the spot. 12 full ounces, that's a lot. Twice as much for a nickel, too. Pepsi Cola is a drink for you. Nickel, 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 trickle, 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 nickel, 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 trick.
Got no home, I'm just a roaming round, just a wandering worker, I go from town to town, and the police make it hard wherever I may go, and I ain't got no home in this world anymore.
You know me. My name's Jerome. I was born back east, but raised by foster parents until the day I ran away. Back in 1917, I was 21 years old and had been on my own most of that time. I moved around a lot, mostly the Southwest. And I've had a lot of jobs, day laborer mostly. Worked on a ranch when I could find the work. Dug irrigation ditches down in Yuma, hard rock miner, copper and silver. It was copper that brought me to Bisbee, Arizona, down along the border that summer. There was a big war going on in Europe and we were in it. Phelps-Dodge needed miners for the war effort and they needed them quick. The day I rode into Bisbee, I had a one-way ticket bought and paid for by Phelps-Dodge. Since Petey owned half the state, I figured Petey could afford to pay my fare. What I didn't know when I stopped into that station with 50 other guys just like me looking for work was this. A couple days earlier, over 3,000 miners in that company town of 8,000 had gone on strike. Most of them, it looked to me, were waiting for us at the station. There wasn't a smile or a handshake in the bunch. Little early for the 4th of July, ain't it?
You part of that Tucson mob Phelps-Dodge hired to break up our strike?
Man I talked to back in Tucson didn't say nothing about no strike. Just asked me if I could swing a pickaxe. I said I could if the price was right. I didn't know about no strike, but now that I'm here...
What you gonna do about it?
Well, now I figure every man has a right to make a dollar, just as every man has a right not to, as long as the two don't interfere.
You do, huh?
This Little Jasper I was talking to was a miner, big arms and big hands compared to the rest of him, and he was feisty and looking for a fight. So I told him, "Now, before you take a swing at me or I take a swing at you back, let's get one thing straight. I came here looking for work, not a fight.
Oh, you did, huh?
I didn't come all the way down here to steal food off another man's plate either. I come from a mining town myself, so before you take a swing at me, why don't you tell me your grievance?"
Maybe I will. Phelps-Dodge owns Bisbee, but it don't own me, not yet.
I'm still listening.
We work at 12-hour shifts here, underground. That means in the winter, it's dark when we go down the elevator and it's dark when we come back up.
Well, mining's not for everyone.
That's your opinion, friend. Now, you gonna listen or not?
I'm listening, friend.
Name's Paul, shift boss, or was until last week.
I'm Jerome. You, talking union, Paul?
What if I am? That don't make me an outside agitator or one of them foreign anarchists. I've been a hard rock miner right here in Bisbee all my life. Go on, ask me what a union is. Just a bunch of guys with similar interests looking out for each other instead of a bunch of guys looking out for themselves.
You sound like one of them outside agitators to me, one of them anarchists, maybe even a red.
Why, you smart little punk.
Just having fun with you now, Paul. Go on, tell me more about the strike. And just between the two of us, we're on the same team.
That waits to be seen. You look like you've spent some time underground. Okay, the way it works here is PD keeps the wages low by making sure there's always 3 guys for one job. But thanks to the IWW, we got ourselves a union now. Leastways, we're trying real hard.
Yeah, that's the way it was last year in Morenci. Union's good. It's safer now. Better wages, too.
That's all we're asking for, a fair shake. But Bisbee's a company town. We get it from both ends down here. Low wages and high prices. PD owns the newspaper, the grocery stores, hardware, even the town library. All we're asking for is a living wage, $6 a shift, and no discrimination against union workers or the Mexicans that got families and live here. But you've been to Morenci. You know what we're up against. Sliding wages, bosses playing favorites with bonus system, and it's dangerous work. Besides, they keep miners down in the tunnels when they blast.
That ain't right.
You're damn right it ain't.
The whole town behind you on this strike?
More than 3,000 miners. That's 90% of the workforce. We stick together. We got a good chance, but now management's bringing in cheap labor for the war effort.
You mean guys like me?
Not just you. From across the border now, too. Here we're striking for $6 a shift, and they hire Mexicans who work for 40 cents. Might bring in Chinamen when the Mexicans get uppity. Work for a nickel and half a bowl of rice. Now there's a war on, and anything we do to improve our condition is considered un-American by BP standards, and they make us out to be traitors to our own country in the bargain.
Okay, you don't have to sell me. I can't speak for the rest of these mugs getting off the train, but I'm with you.
Thanks.
That's when we shook hands for the first time, and Paul invited me home to dinner that night to meet his wife and kids. Like I said, I didn't come to Bisbee to steal bread off anyone's table. But when you're invited home for supper by a guy who 5 minutes earlier was waiting to take a swing at you, well, that kind of changes your perspective on things. Leastways, back when I was 21, it changed the perspective with me. Paul lived in a little 4-room shack built on one of the hills outside town. He had a pretty wife, Kathy, who was pregnant again, and 2 kids. John, 12, a mere image of his father. And then there was little Ginny, who was just a kid and didn't say much with company around. John talked enough for both of them. He also had a touch of a cough that, for all its annoyance, didn't keep him from talking.
Are you a miner, mister?
I have been, son.
Are you with the union, Jerome?
Well, not exactly, but I'm simpatico.
What's that? Latin?
Kathy don't speak much Mex. Her folks are from Kentucky. I don't speak much Mex either, except to get along on the job.
And I don't see why you have to speak Mexican at all here in Bisbee. It hardly seems right.
What do you mean, Mother?
I mean, it ain't their country, is it? They just cross the border to work the mines and take what little work there is away from hardworking Americans like your father.
I know some good Mexicans down in the mines before the strike, hard workers who've lived here all their lives, and to most of them the idea of a union makes a lot of sense.
Well, of course it does. To them. I'm talking about the ones that sneaked over the day before yesterday, the ones that want to bust the strike and everything you and the rest have worked for.
Seems to me the only difference between the ones that come over now and the ones that are already here is the ones that come over now are in even worse shape than the rest of us.
How do you feel about all these Mexicans taking over our jobs, Mr.
Smith. Just call me Jerome, please.
Smith? That's a good English name, isn't it?
Well, I sort of adopted it. You see, I never knew my real last name.
Oh, I didn't...
You'll have to excuse my wife. We don't get to see a lot of new faces here in Bisbee.
Except Mexicans.
That's right, except Mexicans.
Faces around here, once they get underground, all look the same to me. Down there, when every man's face is smudged in earth, the color of his face don't account for much.
If you say so, Paul.
The important thing, now that we're all striking together, is we all have to stick together.
Why is that, Daddy?
Well, because, son, like it or not, we're all in this strike together. But we're organized this time. It's going to be all right. I joined the IWW Local 800 last month.
You a wobbly, John?
A what?
Wobbly, son, one of the IWW. One day you'll be one, too.
No. What's that, Dad?
An international worker of the world. We're bigger than Phelps-Dodge. We're bigger than Arizona. There's millions of us living here in America. Only most of them don't know it yet.
You didn't tell me about the IWW before, Paul.
Well, that's because I didn't want to worry you. What with your hands full with that new batch of Mexicans in town?
Them
You should take care of that cold.
It's not a cold, it's the whooping cough. He's had it for a month now. We've tried honey and lemon drops, and I keep a pan of eucalyptus leaves on the stove at night. Seems to help.
I'm okay, Mother.
It's all that smoke from the indoor cooking that makes him cough.
No, them damn Mexican kids gave it to him. I warned him not to play with them.
I heard him speak once.
Who?
The head wobbly himself, Big Bill Haywood.
Who?
Out in Chicago. For a one-eyed man, that one sure knew how to work a crowd.
But you ain't a wobbly yet yourself.
Well, I'm still thinking on it. Maybe this big strike of yours will make up my mind.
One thing's for certain. Them folks that run this company town are likely now to start getting mean.
Paul was right about that. The folks that ran Bisbee soon got mean. With all their experience running towns, they knew just how to bust up a strike, legal or not. You see, Petey had a list of 1,300 names, all of them striking miners or anyone who supported their cause. Petey gave the list to the local authority, a man by the name of Harry Wheeler, sheriff of Cochise County, and a company man if they ever bred one. Wheeler wasted no time sending a telegram to the governor of Arizona, telling him the strike threatened American war interests, and the governor wasted no time sending another telegram, this one to President Wilson, wanting to know what he was going to do about it. Determined to break the strike at any cost and keep the town free of wobblies and other undesirables, the owners at Phelps-Dodge gave the nod to Sheriff Wheeler, who took it upon himself to deputize a 2,000-man armed posse. I'll say that again just in case you were sleeping. A 2,000-man armed posse. July 11th, 1917. That's the day a state of war came to Bisbee, Arizona. That's also the day the powers that be got together with representatives of the El Paso and Southwestern Railroad. Tactics such as these had been successfully used in eastern Arizona just a week earlier, when the striking miners up there were rounded up along with 67 suspected IWW workers, assorted troublemakers, and alleged anarchists, and they were all deported by train to Needles, California, where they were threatened never to return. The IWW formally complained to the governor of Arizona, and the governor, a solid, rock-ribbed Republican, promptly told anyone who listened that the IWW had threatened him to an inch of his life, which I suspect they probably did.
You son of a...
Sheriff Wheeler and Phelps-Dodge decided if they could get away with these strong-arm tactics once, they could get away with them again. So an hour before dawn on the morning of July 11th, a deputized army of 2,200 armed men began rounding up the 2,000 undesirables, mine workers, IWW supporters, and anyone else who got in their way. In the confusion, a few cash registers got broken into and a few pocketbooks got stolen. But you have to expect that with an armed mob of 2,200 deputies. By 7:30 that same morning, Wheeler's deputized army had arrested, either at random or from the sheriff's extensive list, nearly 2,000 undesirables, including Paul, along with anyone else who got in the way. I just happened to be standing next to Paul at the time and found myself charged with vagrancy. Maybe it was the 75 cents I still owe Phelps-Dodge for staking me to a train ticket.
Keep moving. Keep moving. Where are you taking us? We ain't done nothing illegal. Says you.
Hey, watch yourself, fella. That gun don't give you the right to push me around. I got my rights.
You do, huh? We'll just see about your rights.
Keep moving. Keep moving.
That's right. Keep moving. If you know what's good for you. Watch out now. That one has a gun.
Two men died in the roundup. First, a deputy sheriff was shot by an irate miner in the crowd. Then the miner was executed on the spot by several of Wheeler's deputies. I suppose it could have been worse. You better believe those shots put the fear of God into most of the strikers. After the shooting, they marched us 2 miles to the Bisbee baseball park. Sheriff Wheeler himself rode along with us from a police wagon. He was seated behind a 7.62 millimeter machine gun on loan from the U.S. Armory in Tucson.
Keep moving. Keep moving. No talking. You don't want to stop.
At the ballpark, Wheeler gave us all a free lecture in crowd control from the grandstand.
All of you are under arrest for treason and vagrancy and anything else I decide to charge you with. Settle down. Settle down. You brought this on yourselves, you and your outside friends.
You ain't got no right, Sheriff. None of us did nothing wrong.
Quiet, I say. Now, this ain't the Kaiser's Germany. You got a choice here if you want it. You can all go home to your wives if you want. And you have to do is denounce these outside agitators, the IWWs, and promise to go back to work. You want to go home to your wives and kids, don't you?
We sure do.
Then go back to work. I'll give you amnesty.
What about our demands, Sheriff? What about the strike?
Is that you, Paul Stewart? I thought so. This amnesty of ours don't apply to union organizers like you or IWW agitators. You understand? I'm only talking to the men who didn't cause no trouble and want to go back to work. You better speak up now while you still have a chance.
Setting one man against another is always an ugly thing. Some of the men caved on the spot, and I can't say I blame them much. But others, the majority that is, just got more belligerent, and I can't say I could blame them much either. For what it's worth, Paul and I were among the belligerent ones. In a couple of hours, about a third of the 2,000 arrested decided to go back to work, or at least they said they would. That left about 1,300 of us, the hard cases. At 11 o'clock, they took us to the stockyards and rounded us up into 23 El Paso and Southwestern Railroad cattle cars. You can do the math yourself. 1,300 men divided by 23 cattle cars puts about 50 men in each car. There was fresh manure in some of those cattle cars, and take it from me, the temperature that July day was 100 degrees. We hadn't any food or water since they rounded us up, and we weren't likely to get any anytime soon.
Dad, wait for me.
John, what are you doing here?
I couldn't let them take you away. Miners have to stick together. You told me that yourself. Remember?
You can't go with me, son. Get yourself home and take care of that cough. We don't even know where they're taking us.
That's okay. I'm going with you anyway.
No, you're not. Get on home.
But
Keep moving. Keep moving.
Don't you shove him.
Jesus, mister, what's the matter with you? Can't you see that's a 12-year-old boy you're shoving?
He's with you, ain't he?
He's my son and he's sick.
Then you can't expect one of us to look out after him. Step back unless you want to lose that hand of yours.
Yeah, I've been on a lot of trains in my time, but never one inside a locked cattle car with 50 thirsty men.
I ain't got no home, I'm just a roaming round. Just a wandering worker, I go from town to town. And the police make it hard wherever I may go. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore.
There must have been close to 60 of us standing up inside that locked car. Tempers rose with the temperature. After several hours on their feet, men took turns sitting down on that manure-splattered floor. Nobody knew where we were going, and everyone had an opinion.
I bet they're sending us to the stockyards at El Paso.
No, Mexico's more like it.
I bet they sent us to France to fight Kaiser Bill.
Whether we want to or not. I'll just be happy they don't decide to shoot us when we get there.
Better get us some water soon or they won't have to shoot us.
I ain't had nothing to eat since last night's supper.
Dad, my throat hurts. Where are we going?
I don't know, son.
Mom's gonna be mad as a wet hen.
You let me worry about your mother, son. I think that cough of yours is getting worse.
I'm all right.
Our prison train kept moving east, deep into the desert. We couldn't see much beyond the slats of that cattle car. Just desert, more desert.
Bet now you wish you'd taken that job when you got to Bisbee, huh, Jerome?
And I bet Petey made me an IWW man for life.
Glad to hear it. We'll make out in the end, all right. Can't expect to kill 1,300 men and get away with it.
No, but they can worry us down a bit.
We stick together. We're strong. Stronger than them, and that's what they're afraid of.
You sound like one of them anarchists.
I'm just
riding you, Paul.
I know. It's Johnny I worry about now. Stuck in this stock car like this, with his cough getting worse.
Nothing's gonna happen to John. We'll all take care of him. And we'll get something for that cough of his, too.
Sure we will. All the same, I wish I knew where we were going.
Governor back in Arizona just wanted us out of his state, that's all.
Looks like the governor got his wish.
Being scared and thirsty and locked up inside that boxcar, those men behaved, well, pretty decent all in all. Little Johnny wasn't the only one with a cough that day, and it didn't take long for some of the men to start to worry about catching something. One thing for certain, the bulls back in Bisbee had sure put the hatred of us for Sheriff Wheeler and Phelps-Dodge. They'd broken the strike back in Bisbee, all right, but their methods only brought the rest of us that much closer together. Solidarity, I think they call it today. Wheeler and his thugs might have shoved 1,300 scared and angry individuals into that cattle car at noon, but what emerged from those cars 16 hours later was 1,300 dues-paying workers of the world for life.
All right, agitators, end of the line. Get out.
Where are we?
Never mind that. Get the hell out. And don't ever come back to Arizona, here?
They'd dropped us off somewhere in the middle of the desert, about halfway between Tucson and El Paso. It was the high desert and freezing cold compared to the day. Cold or not, we still didn't have any water. All we could do was bunch together around the side of those tracks and wait for the sun to come up in an hour or two.
Hey, don't leave us out here to die.
How about some water first? Let us have some water.
Good riddance to him.
Only now, what do we do, huh?
All right, man, let's stick together. Nobody wander off. We'll all stay warmer, too, if we bunch up. When the sun comes up in the morning, we'll figure out where we are and what next to do. You okay, son? Let me feel your forehead. Got a little fever now, I think. Sweating, too.
I see a light off in the distance.
Where?
Over there.
Hey, I see it too.
In about an hour, that sun came up bright as a New Mexican orange. You could see a few farm shacks about a mile from the tracks. After some discussion on the matter, we decided it would be in our best interest if we sent a small delegation instead of all 1,300 of us.
I'll go, and I'll take my son with me. He needs to see a doctor.
Leave him here. The boy will only slow you down.
I ain't leaving my boy behind. Besides, this way it won't appear so threatening to strangers to have a kid with me.
I'll come with you, Paul.
Good. And we should be back soon enough, and the rest of you wait here.
And be sure to come back with plenty of water.
And 1,300 cups.
With ice.
So the three of us, Paul, Johnny, and me, started across the desert toward those shacks. Johnny's cough got so bad, Paul picked him up and carried him the last stretch. The first people we met at those shacks were a mother and her young daughter. The mother was feeding chickens when she saw us.
Where have you come from, señores?
They threw us off the train last night.
Ay, the train. We hear much noise in the night.
Do you have a well? We're in need of water.
A well? Yes. You must be very thirsty. Would you like something to eat?
Maybe a slice or two of bread for the boy, if you could spare it.
But of course. Your boy, he is sick?
Yeah, he's got a fever, too. There wouldn't be a doctor in town, would there?
The close doctor lives in Columbus, 20 miles away. But he is not good doctor. Give him to me. I think I may have something for the cough. Yes, he have the fever. Por favor, wait here.
Dad?
It's okay, son. This woman wants to help us.
That woman came back in less than a minute with a bottle of herbal medicine and a big tin spoon.
He must take this 4 or 5 times a day, por favor.
What is it?
Some herb for my garden. I don't know all the English word. Ajo?
Garlic?
Sí, garlic. And jengibre root.
Thank you. We'll try it.
Just swallow each time.
Tastes funny, Dad.
It's good for you, son.
But Mom says...
Never mind what your mother says. Thank you for your kindness.
I am the mother, señor.
There are others back at the tracks. I don't suppose you could...
How many others are you?
Oh, about 1,300.
But we're more thirsty than hungry.
I have some buckets and tin cans you can use for the water. Por favor, we'll return.
Is that woman really going to feed us breakfast, Daddy?
No, John, she can't feed us all, but she's given us water. What's wrong?
You know what Mother tells me about these people?
No, what?
She says they're not to be trusted.
I trust them, John. So should you, and half the men back on that train originally came from somewhere else.
She says they're dirty.
Right now, John, we're dirtier than anyone, but sometimes that kind of dirt can't be helped. How's that cough?
Better, I think.
Here she comes again, and don't forget to thank her.
Here are some empty feed pails you can wash and fill with water, and some tin cans. I am sorry, I do not have more to give you. And look, I have bought you some tortillas for the boys' breakfast.
What do you tell the woman, John?
Thank you.
Today the word is gracias. And gracias, yes, you have been very kind.
De nada.
Yes, gracias, senora. What's the name of your town?
We call this place Tres Hermanas. It was named after 3 sisters who first came here.
Faith, hope, and charity?
Señor?
Never mind. Thank you again for the tortillas and the water. We will return the buckets to you as soon as we can.
Do not hurry. For time to time, Señor, we all seek water in this desert.
We filled our buckets with water and took them back to the others. But there were so many of us, and we only had 3 buckets, and so that morning we made a relay with those buckets, and in a couple of hours everyone received his share of water. Back in Bisbee, news of our deportation started to leak out, even though Sheriff Wheeler and the Citizens Protection League had long since seized control of the telephone and telegraph lines. By mid-morning, representatives from the IWW, including one attorney, made their way by truck to Tres Hermanas. Help was on its way, even if that help came only in the form of a slow trickle. When the rest of the country learned what had happened, a lot of people were outraged.
What these folks did to you back in Bisbee, I wouldn't do to a dog.
That Sheriff Wheeler and his bunch of PD got themselves one big lawsuit on their hands.
The governor, too, treating you men like dirty foreigners. What were those men thinking?
And when the rest of the country learned what had happened in Bisbee, a lot of them were outraged too. But contrary to these prevailing sentiments, Sheriff Wheeler and the Citizens Protection League continued to reign over the town of Bisbee. Anyone wanting to enter or leave the town limits first had to have a Bisbee passport stamped by Wheeler himself. Any strangers in town were hauled before the sheriff's hand-picked court. Hundreds, including many established citizens of Bisbee, were found guilty of the crimes un-Americanism and disturbing the peace. They were promptly deported and warned under the threat of a lynching never to return. 3 months later, Sheriff Wheeler was ordered by the Attorney General of Arizona to cease and desist. When asked by what authority he had to arrest and deport hundreds of U.S. citizens, Sheriff Wheeler replied,
I have no statute that I had in mind, Your Honor. Perhaps everything I did wasn't exactly legal. It was a question of, are you American or are you not? And you should know I would repeat the operation anytime I find my own people endangered by a mob comprised of 50% aliens and enemies of the government.
I ain't got no home, I'm just a roaming round. Just a wandering worker, I go from town to town. And the police make it hard wherever I may go. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore.
Despite lawsuits filed by the IWW and individual citizens, neither the state of Arizona nor the federal government initiated criminal proceedings against those responsible for the deportations of 1,300 Bisbee miners. Some of those miners filed civil suits against Phelps-Dodge for lost wages, but this was 1917, remember. In almost every case, juries ruled against those miners. Under the threat of death, Paul Stewart returned to Bisbee, where he found himself blacklisted from working the mines. After a year of spotty employment, he relocated his family to Silver City, New Mexico, where his wife Kathy later changed her opinion about Mexican Americans. Well, some of them anyway.
John, you and your friend Antonio need to come in and eat this watermelon while it's still cold.
I think that homemade cough remedy Senora Teresa gave John helped to sway her opinion. Me? I continued to ride the rails whenever I could, but unlike my agitator friend Paul, I steered clear of Bisbee. I never paid back the railroad those 6 bits I owed them for that free train ride they gave me from Tucson. The way I figured it, those SOBs owed me for that 16-hour train ride we took to Tres Hermanas. And so in my ledger, the railroad and I were even. A couple months later, I was still looking for work, and so I joined the American Expeditionary Forces to fight Kaiser Bill in France. I hear Sheriff Wheeler also joined the American Expeditionary Forces, where a man of his talents and temperament soon rose to the rank of corporal. If I live to be 100, I will never forget what I heard and saw over there. I'll also never forget the words of that kind woman back in Tres Hermanas when she said,
From time to time, Señor, we all seek water in this desert.
Town to town, and the police make it hard wherever I may go, and I ain't got no home.
Our GSR players were Bill Alewyn, who played Jerome, Renee Sandoval, who portrayed Paul, Kathy was played by Sarah Lopez. John was played by Ryan Lopez. The deputy was played by Dick Hobbs. Sheriff Wheeler was portrayed by Gene Carter. Kevin West, Terry Turner, and Rod Gibson were the striking miners. Teresa was played by Maji Swain. I'm your announcer and director for tonight's radio play, Ralph Swain. Thank you for listening.
I got my Social Security, and it's a good deal by Craigie.
That's right. Social Security provides you insurance protection with benefits that you'll get when you retire at 65 or when you reach 50 if you're totally or permanently disabled. Social Security also provides family survivor benefits for a serviceman's widow and minor children. If you're a military service member, it's important for you to know how many years of service you will need to qualify for a second retirement check. Men can collect Social Security at age 65, but women at age 62. Have you investigated your Social Security benefits?
Thank you, FDR. And it's a good deal from the New Deal.
Are you safe from BO on all 13 areas of your skin?
La 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 la, I'm happy and I'm singing the Life Boy song.
Be Life Boy clean on all 13.
Be Life Boy clean on all 13.
Remember, you can get BO on not just one, but 13 skin areas. It's cleaner to get these 13 skin areas, the safer you are. Lifebuoy Health Soap deodorizes all 13 skin areas, stops BO before it begins, stops BO up to 48 hours. Doctors have proven that Lifebuoy, with its purifying ingredients, actually gets skin cleaner than any other leading soap. Don't trust ordinary soaps to stop BO. Use Lifebuoy every day.
Be Lifebuoy clean on all 13.
Be Lifebuoy clean on all 13. I'm happy and I'm singing the Lifebuoy song.
Well, with summer right around the corner, let's enjoy welcoming back Bonnie Lee again. Bonnie?
And the living
The copyright on this production does not authorize any other broadcast, distribution, or other dissemination of this production, or any part thereof by means of radio, television, the internet, or any other means, nor does it authorize the recording of this production or any part thereof on disc, tape, film, or any other technology for sale or distribution by any means.